Every time you defend yourself, you give something away: power, presence, perception. People don't hear your words, they feel your insecurity. And that's all it takes to lose authority in silence. The problem isn't being misunderstood. The problem is needing to fix it. Most people are addicted to explaining. They think clarity earns respect. But the more you explain, the more people doubt you. In power games, explaining is leaking. Silence, on the other hand, is leverage. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. Reputation isn't built through approval, it's built through restraint. And when you stop trying to be understood, you start to be feared. Not through threats, through mystery. Your strength isn't in the argument, it's in the absence of one, because silence shifts the burden. It forces others to interpret, guess, and react. That's when the power flips. The goal here isn't to stay quiet. It's to control when your voice matters. Most people speak to prove. The strategist speaks to direct. Everything else is noise. If they can predict your reaction, they can control it. But if they can't read you, they tread carefully. And when people become careful around you, you've already won. So stop giving them free insight into your mind. Don't defend. Don't chase approval. Make your silence feel intentional. And suddenly, you become untouchable. Let's grate the old pattern and build a new presence, one that doesn't beg to be respected, one that demands it without a single word.
The cost of defending yourself. The moment someone accuses you of something, you feel it in your chest, the urge to correct them, to explain, to be understood. But that instinct is dangerous, because the second you start defending, you're playing their game. And if they set the rules, you're already behind. In strategy, reactions are weaknesses. Most people don't realize it, but defending yourself signals one thing: guilt or fear. Even if you're innocent, your explanation shows that their words landed. And if their words landed, they hit a nerve. Now they know where you're soft. You just gave them the map. In power dynamics, perception matters more than truth. It's not about being right. It's about being above the need to prove it. The one who feels obligated to explain looks smaller. The one who says nothing appears stronger, even if they're misunderstood. Think about people you admire, the ones who never rush to clarify. Their silence forces others to interpret, wonder, and often back off. It's not that they're cold, it's that they value positioning over validation. That's what gives them gravity in any room. If you respond too quickly, you become emotionally readable. And when people can read you, they can use you. But if you stay calm, composed, and quiet, you become unpredictable. That unpredictability makes people cautious, and caution leads to respect. Try this. Next time someone throws a passive jab at you, don't react. Let it float. Let them sit in the silence. If they feel awkward, good. You've just flipped the frame. Now they're the one wondering if they overstepped, not you. Machiavellian wisdom isn't about being heartless. It's about preserving authority. You don't owe everyone an explanation, especially not those who question you with hidden agendas. Your energy is currency, and not everyone deserves to spend it. So if they call you arrogant, cold, or distant, let them. Power isn't in proving who you are. It's in letting them guess and never confirming. But what happens when silence alone isn't enough and the pressure builds louder?
Silence as a weapon. Silence makes people uncomfortable for a reason. It forces them to confront their own thoughts, their own behavior. When you stay quiet, you aren't passive. You're watching, calculating. And in power dynamics, the observer always sees more than the participant. Stillness is not absence, it's focus. Most people talk to fill space. They rush to respond, explain, clarify. But when you stay quiet, you stand out. You create contrast. And that contrast makes others lean in, unsure of where you stand or what you'll do next. Silence doesn't mean you have nothing to say. It means you're choosing not to say it yet. That pause builds tension, and tension is influence. It's not the noise that holds power. It's the controlled absence of it. Think of a negotiation. The person who speaks first usually loses leverage. The one who lets the silence stretch forces the other to react, to reveal more, to overexpose. That's when control shifts, not through volume, but through patience. When someone accuses you and you stay calm, it rattles them. They expect resistance, not composure. Your silence becomes a mirror, and in that reflection, they see their own aggression, their own instability. It's psychological judo, and it works. Machiavelli would call this tactical restraint. It's the ability to hold your ground without needing to move. You don't need to argue, you just need to remain. Let the chaos play out around you while you remain the still point. That's presence. Try this in everyday life. When someone questions your decision, pause. Look at them. Let them finish. Don't rush to explain. Just say, "I hear you." Or say nothing at all. Watch how quickly their confidence shifts. Silence is unsettling, and that's your edge. But silence isn't always enough on its own. Sometimes you need to turn their own words against them without even raising your voice. So how do you flip an attack without ever sounding defensive?
Turning the accusation around. When someone accuses you, it's not just about what they say. It's about where they want the conversation to go. They want you on your heels, explaining, justifying, reacting. But what if you didn't follow their script? What if instead you made them question why they spoke at all? The most powerful shift you can make is subtle. When accused, don't say, "That's not true." Say, "Interesting," or "That's one way to see it." You haven't denied, you haven't agreed. You've just redirected the spotlight back to them, where it belongs. The goal isn't to argue, it's to reframe. You're not playing defense. You're making them own their perspective. And once they have to explain themselves, the energy flips. Now they're justifying, they're defending, and you're still standing, untouched. Think about this. Someone calls you manipulative. Most people rush to prove they're not. But a strategist smiles and says, "If that's how it seems to you."
That answer stops the attack. There's nowhere to go. You didn't resist, you redirected. This technique works because it short-circuits emotional momentum. Accusers feed off your reaction. But when you stay calm and neutral, you starve them. The attack collapses under its own weight. You're not playing victim or villain. You're simply not playing. Machiavelli knew that power comes from shaping perception. And you can't do that if you're always clarifying yourself. A simple, well-placed line can dismantle an entire offensive. Not because it's aggressive, but because it's precise. Try this next time someone tests your character. Respond slowly. Let your tone stay even. Use phrases like "noted" or "that's your view" or "you're entitled to think that." They sound like nothing, but they carry everything: control, boundaries, confidence. But what if the attacks keep coming? What if your silence and your calm response aren't enough to stop the escalation? That's when you move to something even colder and even more effective.
The silent collapse of the accuser. Silence doesn't just protect you, it weakens them. When someone accuses you and you don't react, they're left carrying their own weight. The longer they talk, the more desperate they sound. And the more you remain still, the more they unravel. This isn't a battle of facts, it's a test of composure. People expect resistance. When they don't get it, their own energy rebounds. They begin to doubt what they said. They look around for validation and see none. Suddenly, their words feel louder than they intended and less convincing. Your silence becomes their spotlight. You've likely seen this in real life. One person gets loud, emotional, aggressive. The other just breathes, listens, observes. Who looks stronger? Who ends up gaining sympathy, respect, or quiet authority? The one who didn't need to fight for it. That's psychological dominance. This isn't passive behavior, it's deliberate. You're not ignoring, you're inviting them to expose themselves. And most attackers do. They repeat themselves, they exaggerate, they reach for new angles. All of it makes them look unstable, and you, unshaken. Machiavelli would call this reverse leverage. The more they try to control the moment, the more it controls them. Because your refusal to react creates pressure. It creates the sense that you know something they don't. That's fear, dressed as respect. You don't need to point fingers or defend your character. Let their accusations hang. Let the silence echo. And watch how fast the room starts to turn. People rarely remember who shouted. They remember who stayed calm when it mattered most. If you want to practice this, start small. The next time someone challenges you publicly, pause, look at them. Don't blink, don't fidget, just wait. You'll see it, the shift in energy, the cracks in their posture, the uncertainty in their voice. But sometimes even silence has limits, and when the noise doesn't stop, you don't fight it. You disappear and make your absence speak louder than any defense ever could.
The power of strategic disappearance. Sometimes the strongest move isn't to stay calm, it's to vanish. Not in weakness, but in control. When you remove yourself from a toxic conversation, a manipulative group, or a pointless debate, you deny your opponent the stage. You don't fight the fire, you take away the oxygen. Strategic disappearance isn't avoidance, it's positioning. You're not escaping, you're reminding them that your attention is not free. When you leave, they're left talking to themselves. Their performance loses its audience, and without attention, they collapse. Think of it like a power outage. Suddenly, everything stops. The lights go out. The noise fades. That's what your exit feels like when done right. It creates a vacuum, and in that silence, people start to reflect on what was said, what went wrong, and why you're no longer present. You become a presence through your absence. People wonder if they pushed too hard, if they lost someone they can't replace, if the calm one was the valuable one all along. That's influence without confrontation. That's leadership by scarcity. Machiavelli understood this deeply. Power isn't just about being seen. It's about being missed. When your absence hurts more than your presence ever demanded, you've reached a higher level of control, not through force, but through space. This tactic is especially powerful in relationships, personal, professional, or social. When someone no longer values your boundaries, don't argue, withdraw. Watch how they spiral trying to pull you back in, not because they care, but because they lost control. To apply this, don't ghost emotionally. Leave intentionally. Make it clear through action, not explanation, that your time and energy aren't up for negotiation. And then hold that line, even when it gets uncomfortable, especially when it does. But sometimes, walking away isn't the final play. Sometimes you need to return, calm, collected, and more dangerous than before. And when you do, you don't just ignore the accusations. You flip them like a blade.
The blade reversed. How to turn their words into a weapon without ever attacking. When someone throws a verbal blade at you, the average person tries to dodge it or block it. But the strategist knows how to turn that same blade back with poise. You don't need to attack. You just let their accusation reveal more about them than about you. That's not defense. That's redirection. Imagine being called manipulative. Most react with denial or guilt, but a composed reply like interesting perspective flips the pressure. You're not denying, you're not agreeing, you're making them justify their interpretation. Now the spotlight is on their motives, not your character. This technique works because it catches the accuser off guard. They expected a fight. They didn't expect control. Your calm response creates dissonance. What they said and what they're getting back don't match. And that mismatch makes them look unstable, emotional, or even obsessed. Machiavellian strategy is not about winning arguments. It's about shifting perception. And when someone realizes they've revealed too much emotion, they start shrinking. Their confidence breaks down, not because you were cruel, but because you were controlled. Try using short, disarming phrases, if that's what you believe, or you're free to see it that way. They sound neutral, but they force the other person to keep talking, to push harder, to expose their real insecurity. Meanwhile, you stay still and watch the power shift. This is how you stay above drama without being passive. You're not ignoring the jab, you're holding up a mirror. And mirrors always reveal the truth behind the mask, especially when someone is trying to weaponize shame or guilt.
When you master this, you'll notice something. People will hesitate to confront you, not because they fear your temper, but because they fear their own reflection. You've turned their weapon into their undoing. That's precision influence. But there's a deeper level, beyond words, beyond even redirection. It's the invisible presence that changes the energy in the room before you speak, and long after you leave.
The aura of the untouchable. Some people walk into a room and shift the air. They don't speak loudly, they don't demand attention, but everyone notices. That's not charisma, it's presence. Machiavelli understood this. True power is felt before it's explained, and once it's felt, it doesn't need to be defended. You build this presence through consistency. The way you walk, pause, breathe, how you hold your gaze. People read it all. And the less reactive you are, the more powerful you seem. Why? Because reactivity looks desperate. Stillness looks composed. And composition earns respect. People who are easy to provoke are easy to control. But those who stay unreadable make others think twice. You don't have to threaten. You don't have to flex. Just being emotionally unavailable to chaos sends a clear message. This isn't my level. Try someone else. The untouchable doesn't get pulled into gossip, drama, or petty arguments, not because they're scared, but because they're focused. When your life has direction, distractions bounce off you, and that distance creates mystique. People project power onto what they can't decode. In power psychology, mystery is value. When people don't fully understand you, they respect the space. That space becomes a buffer, a silent boundary. It protects you from noise and forces others to consider your reaction before they move. You've seen this before. That leader who says little, but when they do, everyone listens. That person in a group who doesn't chase validation, but always seems to be respected. That's not natural talent. That's cultivated discipline. It's the mastery of energy. To develop this, reduce unnecessary talking. Stop over-explaining. Dress with intention. Move with calm. And above all, think before you speak. Not to sound wise, but to own the room. Because when people feel your stability, they regulate themselves. But reputation plays a role too. And the difference between a good reputation and a strong one. That can be the line between being liked and being untouchable.
Strong reputation versus good reputation. Most people chase a good reputation. They want to be seen as kind, fair, agreeable. But here's the problem. A good reputation is fragile. It depends on constant approval. A strong reputation, on the other hand, doesn't need applause. It commands space. It makes people hesitate before they cross you. Machiavelli would say, it's better to be feared than loved if you can't be both. Not fear as in terror, but caution. The kind of respect that keeps your name out of petty conversations. Because when people aren't sure how far they can go with you, they usually don't go far at all. A strong reputation is built through boundaries, consistency, and restraint. You say less, but you mean more. You don't respond to every insult, but when you do speak, people feel the weight. You don't beg to be liked. You earn respect by making your presence cost something. Think about leaders you respect. Were they always smiling? Always explaining themselves? Probably not. They were clear, unshakable. They didn't care about being liked. They cared about being effective. That's the shift from approval-seeking to power-holding. Good reputations fade fast. One rumor, one slip-up, and you're scrambling to repair your image. But a strong reputation can withstand misunderstanding because it wasn't built on softness, it was built on presence. And presence doesn't shatter under pressure. Want to build one? Start by saying no more often. Stop apologizing for standards. Protect your energy. Let people feel the consequences of crossing your line, not through retaliation, but through distance. Respect grows in the space between your silence and their behavior. Your reputation isn't what you say about yourself. It's what others say when you're not in the room. And if you've done it right, they'll say just enough and never too much, because you've made them cautious. And cautious people don't play games. But beyond reputation lies something even more magnetic, an invisible pull that doesn't come from being seen, but from being sensed. That's where real influence begins.
The power of silent command. In a noisy world, silence is loud. Most people rush to explain, defend, justify. But the one who pauses, the one who holds space instead of filling it, immediately shifts the balance. Machiavelli knew this. Silence isn't absence, it's assertion. It says, I don't need your permission to exist. There's a difference between being silent because you have nothing to say and choosing silence because your words are too valuable to waste. That's when silence becomes presence, and presence, when paired with intention, becomes power. People begin to lean in, curious, unsettled. Why? Because silence forces projection. When you don't clarify, people fill the blanks with what they fear or admire. They start wondering, is he angry, confident, planning something? And the uncertainty gives you leverage. You haven't moved, but the entire room has. Use silence in moments of confrontation. Don't interrupt. Don't explain. Just look, breathe, wait. You're not freezing. You're framing. You're letting the tension do the work for you. Eventually, the person attacking you will trip over their own words, trying to break your calm. And in social circles, the silent person becomes the anchor. While others overshare, overreact, overtalk, you become the reference point. Your silence creates contrast. It turns drama into background noise. And that contrast is what makes people turn toward you. Strategic silence also builds anticipation. When you finally speak, it feels like an event. People listen more closely, remember more vividly. Your words become rare, and what's rare is respected. You've now shifted from reactive to commanding. But there's a deeper level. When you master the art of stillness, not just in voice, but in body, breath, energy, you develop what warriors call unshakable presence. It's the vibe of someone who cannot be rattled. That stillness speaks louder than any defense ever could. Yet even this power can evolve. Beyond silence lies something even more elusive, something that doesn't just respond or resist, but redefines the entire game.
Redefining the game. There comes a moment where you stop reacting and start dictating. You're no longer explaining your actions, correcting your image, or managing perceptions. You define the tone, the pace, the energy. That's when you stop playing the game and start rewriting its rules. Machiavelli would call this the final form of power. Not dominance through aggression, but sovereignty through detachment. You no longer seek to be understood. You don't need agreement or validation. Your clarity is internal, and that clarity shapes every external outcome. In this space, your silence isn't resistance, it's design. Your presence isn't a reaction, it's direction. And that direction bends the environment to your advantage. People adjust their behavior around you, not because you forced them, but because you refused to be moved. Examples of this are rare but unforgettable. Think of those individuals who say very little but influence entire rooms. They don't argue, they don't chase, but everything shifts when they enter. That's not charisma, it's control, the kind that's earned in silence. To operate at this level, you must detach from reputation obsession. Let people wonder, let them talk. Power doesn't come from micromanaging every opinion. It comes from moving with such conviction that opinions become irrelevant. You are no longer available for debate. This doesn't mean becoming emotionless. It means channeling emotion into presence, not performance. You're not suppressing your feelings. You're refining their expression. Strategic calm, precision language, no wasted movement, just controlled power in motion. At this stage, your life becomes your argument. You don't need to convince anyone. Your results speak louder. Your energy becomes so anchored that even lies told about you dissolve in their own exaggeration. The stronger your center, the harder it is to attack. And what happens next is unexpected. Those who once doubted you start defending you, not because you begged them to, but because they now see what you always carried. The shift is complete, from being on trial to becoming the standard.
Now ask yourself, how many times have you weakened your position just to be understood? How often have you explained, apologized, or overreacted only to realize it made things worse? What would your life look like if you stopped defending and started defining? You don't need everyone to like you. You need to command respect without saying a word. That shift doesn't just protect your image, It transforms your presence. So which part of this hit you the hardest? The silence, the detachment, or the moment you realized you've been handing over your power without even noticing? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Your experience might be the wake-up call someone else needs. And if this message sparked something in you, it means you're ready for more. Hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and don't miss the next lesson, where we'll reveal how to use emotional control to dominate any room without saying a word. And now, watch the video on screen. It completes the path you just started. And trust me, you won't see power the same way again.